What's up, folks? I'm Dwayne,
I'm Alicia.
and this is Blackboard Gaming, where we teach you about all these great board games that are out there.
Waiting to be played by you and yours.
I'm a simple man, don't wanna complicate ya.
Hey, everybody!
Today, we're going to try to fly a plane.
Or at least try and land one.
Today, we're going to talk about Sky Team.
Sky Team is designed by Luc Raymond, I hope I said that right, and published by Scorpion Masque, Inc.
Let's go to the table for an overview of how this game is played.
Sky Team is a dice placement cooperative game for two players where the players take on the role of a pilot and a co-pilot trying to land a plane. And this is the game already set up ready to play. We have our control panel in the middle of the play area in reach of both players. And up here we have our altitude track. And we're going to slide it in right at the beginning where it's 6,000 feet. And there are these reroll icons that we're going to place these reroll tokens onto those icons. So we got one at 6,000 feet, another one at 2,000 feet. Over here we have our approach track, and we're going to place it, slide it in where the cloud's at right at the beginning. And there are these little airplane icons off to the left side, and that shows how many of these plane tokens we're going to put on the approach track. Down here we have this disc here that we're going to place here, and we're going to have an arrow pointing straight up to show us the plane that's horizontal. And then we got this blue marker, this orange marker, and this red marker, and we're going to place it in the spots where you can see those, the same color dots right there. Now this track controls engine, your speed. This one is your brakes. And over here we have our landing gear, we have our brakes, and then we have our flaps. And we're going to take these little tokens and we're going to place them in here to cover up these little green spots right here. And then we got these little coffee tokens right here off to the side. There are 3 of them, and we're going to place those off to the side. And then each player is going to get their own player shield matching their player color. And then they're going to get dice that's matching that color also. So over here you got the blue represents the pilot, and the orange is going to be the co-pilot. And as you can see, inside the shield has these player A's, so that's really cool. And of course these are going to be facing away from the other player, so when you roll in your dice, the other player can't see what you roll. And now we're all set, ready to play. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to land a plane. The game is going to last 7 rounds, and each round is broken up into 3 phases. The first phase being strategy, discussion, and dice roll. Second phase is placing the dice, and the third phase is end of round. Now in the strategy discussion, we get to talk about what we're trying to do. Now we can't be using specific like, hey, if I roll a 6 die, I'm going to place it here. We can't be doing all that. What we can do is say, hey, we need to get this plane horizontal, or we need to get those flaps raised, or something like that. We need to work on the brakes. And once we do that, then each player is going to roll their dice in secret, like so. Then once we've done that, then we go into placing the dice. So these reroll tokens become available to us at that altitude. So this one is available to us. Now we will place it over here. And at any time, a player can just choose to use that reroll token, discarding it from the game, and then reroll any number of dice. And then the other player can do the same thing. Now, let's go over what each section of this control panel does. As you can already tell, the blue spaces on the board, only the pilot can place their blue die in, and the orange spaces on the board, only the co-pilot can place their orange die in. Now there are two places on the control panel that the pilot and the co-pilot must place a dice every round. And that is the axis, which controls the tilt of the plane, and then the engine, which controls the plane's speed. So the axis, we're trying to make sure that the plane remains horizontal, especially when we finally land. So let's say the pilot places this one die there, and then the co-pilot places this one die there. Then the plane is going to remain horizontal. But let's say instead the pilot places this 3 die. So now the difference is 2, so the plane is going to tilt 2 spaces towards the higher die. And you see this X, if ever the plane, this arrow hits that X, then we go into a tailspin and we crash and fail. So we definitely don't want that to happen. Now down here, the engine controls the speed. And what we're trying to do when we place a die, we add up to those dice, and the sum, if it falls in between the orange, the blue and the orange tokens, then we're going to move 1 space. So let's say the pilot places this 2 and the co-pilot places this 5 and it's 7. Now if the sum was below the blue marker, then we don't move. We're in a holding pattern. If it's above the orange marker, then we're going to move 2 spaces. As it is, the sum of this is 7, so we're going to move 1 space. Now up here in these spots, you see these headsets, and we place die. We're talking to the radio tower to say, hey, you guys got to move those planes out the way because we're coming in for a landing. As you can see, the pilot only has 1 and the co-pilot has 2 of those. And so when trying to move those planes, we have to place a die and then count how many spots. So let's say I'm trying to move that plane, then I had to place this 2 die, and I go 1, 2, and I can move this plane off of the approach track. Now we definitely want to get those planes off those approach tracks. So let's say this was the state of the game right now, and instead of placing this 2, the pilot placed the 6, which is 11, which means we move 2 spaces, and of course we move in that space, we hit that plane, we crash and fail. And we definitely don't want that to happen. Over to the left, we have the landing gear, and of course only the pilot can place their die there, but they also have to pay attention to the number. So up here, only a 1 or 2 can go there, 3 or 4, or 5 and a 6. And you can do this in any order. The pilot can do this in any order. So let's say the pilot decides to place this 1 up here. So this would flip this over, showing that some of the landing gear is on. And then every time you place a die over here, this is going to move over 1 spot to the right, which changes the sum that you need to have to control your speed. Over to the right is where we control the flaps of the plane. And of course, only the pilot can place die here. Not only does the pilot have to pay attention to the number value in each spot, but they can only do this in order, unlike the landing gear. So the co-pilot has to start placing die up here first. So he places this 2 here, which turns this on, which moves this orange marker to the right. Now with the brakes, the pilot has to put that specific number value die into those spaces, and he has to do those in order, as you can see by these arrows. So if the pilot has this 2, he places this 2 there, which turns this on, and then we move this red token over to the right 1 space. And the brakes come into play in the last round, which I'll show you in a little bit. The last spot that the pilot and co-pilot can place their die, and as you can see, they both can place their die here, is concentration. Whereas if the co-pilot has his die and he can't place it anywhere, he can place it here, which we take one of these coffee tokens and place it into this spot. And at the most, it can hold 3 coffee tokens at a time. And so what the coffee tokens do is, later on in the game, let's say you have a die, you have a 6, but you want to change it to a 5, you can spend a coffee token to change the value of that die. And if you have all 3 coffee tokens there, you can change a 6 to a 3 by spending all those coffee tokens. Of course, you cannot change a 6 to a 1. Once the pilot and the co-pilot have placed all their die, then we would go into the end of round phase, which we would move the altitude track down 1 space. Now, I forgot to mention, if you see here in the first round, where the blue arrow, that shows who starts placing their die first. So the pilot will place die first. But now in the second round, after we move this down, the co-pilot is going to start placing die first. Once we move the altitude track, everybody will retrieve their dice. And then we will start the second round. In the 7th round, we would want to have the altitude track and the approach track in these 2 same spots right there, which shows we have now arrived to the airport. So this is when the brakes come into play, because when you place die in the engines, instead of comparing it to up here, you're going to compare it to the brakes. So the sum of these 2 die have to be lower than the red marker, so it has to be 4 or less. But let's say, and remember, this is all done with limited communication, so there's no communication. I'm just narrating what happens in this last round. So let's say the pilot places this 6 here, which turns this on, which moves this red marker. So now the sum of the engine die has to be 6 or less. Okay, as you can see, there's a plane still sitting there. One of the win conditions is all the planes have to be moved off the approach track, because if there's a plane there, we crash and we fail. Co-pilot places his 1 there, counts up 1, plane go bye-bye. All right, so now another win condition, this plane has to be horizontal. So pilot places his 3 there. The co-pilot places his 2 there, which difference is 1, goes towards the higher die. The plane is now horizontal. Win condition, all the landing gear has to be placed down. The pilot succeeded in doing that. But it's the pilot's turn. He takes this die and he's going to place it here. Now, co-pilot has this. They decide they're going to place that there. So the sum of that is 6. 6 is below the red marker. They were successfully applied their brakes. The pilot has this die left. They decide they're just going to drink some coffee, because they know the co-pilot got it taken care of, or so they think. Of course, the co-pilot has a 4. Another win condition, all the flaps have to be down. He has not put this flap down yet, or flap up. I don't know how planes go, but he says, I'm going to drink some coffee. He changes this into a 5. And now he can place that in the 5 or 6 spot, which raises the last flap or lowers it. And so now all the win conditions have been met, and we have successfully landed the plane. Therefore, we have won the base scenario of Sky Team. Now, I say the base game because after you played the base game a few times, there's a bunch of different scenarios that come in this this flight log here, along with some different approach tracks. and some other components that I am anticipating exploring and checking out. So if you watched our video where we talked about our most anticipated games of Gen Con, this was on my list because I was really attracted to the theme. This is a unique theme that I hadn't seen before. We're trying to land a plane. So I was like, I want to try this game. You know? I mean, what do you think about the theme?
So honestly, this game was not on my radar, but when you told me that it was us trying to land the plane cooperatively, oh, I was on board.
Yep, and it's a 2-player.
Yes.
So we're doing it, you know. And I was a little worried because, you know, Alicia doesn't really, it doesn't really draw to limited communication games.
Yes, I do. Some of them.
Which ones?
Some of them. I don't want games where you just flat out gotta read folk mind.
Yeah, I got you. But it was just that right level of limited communication.
Well, I mean, I hope that the pilot and the co-pilot talk a little bit more in the actual cockpit, but that limited communication made the game more challenging, therefore more interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, when all is said and done, it's a puzzle to figure out.
Yes.
And I really, really enjoyed the theme of this game. I
Yes.
really liked it.
Yes.
All right, so moving forward, what do you think about the components?
So, first of all, those little coffee cups are just too cute. But what I really like is how the board looks like the instrument panel of a plane. So
Yeah, I really did like that.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's a recessed board where you can place the die and all that. And I love those little wooden planes.
Oh yeah, I do like the planes. And I actually, I like the colors that they chose for the pilot and the co-pilot.
Yeah, I really did like that. You know, now if I had one critique, because being that this is a smaller game, all the pieces are small.
Yes.
So those little, I don't know if you call them the little tokens that you use for the brakes and
Yes.
the
Yes.
flaps
Yes.
and the landing gear.
Yes.
I wish that could have been just in the board, you know, like somewhere. I don't know how much more money that would have cost, but
I understand what you're saying. You wish it had already been there because putting it on, they're just so tiny.
yeah, and I mean, like when we're putting the game away, I really have to like focus. Like, okay, let me make sure I got. Okay, there, that's going in the bag. I got all of them. You know, making sure nothing ends up on the floor.
Yeah.
So I mean, but that's my only little gripe.
Yes.
All right, what do you think about the art?
Okay. So the art is pretty basic, but it's colorful. Like there's not a lot of gorgeous art other than
The box cover.
and the box cover is gorgeous.
Yeah, I really do like the box cover.
But the game, it's aesthetically appealing. It looks nice on the table.
Yeah,
it's
it does.
Colorful. It's bright. So it looks good.
Yeah, I think it's not too much in the way of art,
Right.
other than that box cover. And
Yeah.
that box cover, I was like, they look epic. I mean, they're looking like, you know, they should be doing a slow motion hero walk to the plane. You know, like just moving slow. Like, that's why I was trying to place the music when I did the overview, because I wanted it to sound epic.
Okay.
Because I mean, you're landing a plane. That's, you know, you're a pilot. That's a skill. You gotta have some skill to do that.
You have to have some skill and some precision.
Yes. Okay. All right. So, what do you think about the mechanics?
All right, so the dice placement is basically really dice placement,
Yes.
but I think it's done well. I mean, it works for this game because you don't know what your partner has. So, and you know what you're trying to achieve, but when you place out a number, you don't know if what your partner has. So, they have to figure out. You just have to
Hope that they put that right number down.
Yes. What I really like about this game is I really think this game did a good job of simulating the tension,
Yep.
urgency of
the stressfulness
dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's so that you can land that plane safely.
All right. Well, with that said, because I agree with everything you said. I like dice placement game. I like the way that they use the little coffee cups to mitigate your dice.
Or the re-roll.
Yeah, I like that. And they give you some ways of mitigating that dice, but that what's done is done.
Yes, yes.
So with that said, what do you think about the teach?
All right. Confession time. When it comes to games, I'm a slow learner. So it took a whole playthrough for me to really grasp how to place those dice. Not just strategically, but just how to place them in the right spots.
So, when we first played this game, I posted it on Facebook, and my best friend in Dallas sent me a meme of the guy from Airplane when he was just sweating profusely, like, this is you with Alicia flying, trying to land that plane.
I love you too, Brian.
I thought it was so funny.
It was funny. Well, one of the things I like about this game is I got to be the pilot. Because y'all know when we rolling together, I don't get to be the pilot.
Yep, I let her be the pilot. I said, maybe this will pull her in more. You're in control. And I'm over there, the co-pilot, like, So, anyway, I mean, and I taught this. I went up to Opal Grove, and I taught it to Aisha. She had ordered a bunch of copies for the store. And I said, hey, I can teach you how to play. And once we played it, we successfully landed the plane the first try. And she was like, oh yeah, I made a good choice. I'm a fan of this game.
Yes, this game is engaging. And the base scenario just teaches you how to communicate, where to place your dice. So I think I am interested in the more challenging scenarios as well.
Yeah, because there are 21 scenarios, and I don't know if it includes the base scenario, but it makes it more difficult. So you're landing at different airlines throughout the world. And I mean, it's some that you're flying through mountains, so you got to make sure the plane is tilted this way or tilted that way in a certain round. And, I was like, oh yeah, I'm excited to delve further into this game.
Bottom line, this game lives up to the hype.
Yep, overall, yes. I am so glad we were able to score a copy. And I really, really love playing this game with you.
Yes.
All right. So, like I said, Sky Team, it's a great game. We can see why everybody was waiting in line, why they kept selling out. Because, I mean, the hype is real.
Yes.
All right. So, if you like the contents of this video, feel free to hit the like button. Subscribe.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
And I'm Dwayne.
I'm Alicia.
This has been Blackboard Gaming.
We will see you next time.